can't fall off. Now they holler he'll turn, thinking I'ma sell out, talking just to feel heard. I never listen, although they say it's strictly. Yes, we are back for another WNBA Friday. We have to talk about rivalry week. We are in the thick of it right now. These marquee matchups for rivalry week. We have to talk about it. I'm going to be saying, are these rivalries or are they not rivalries? Are they just good matchups? What is a rivalry here in the WNBA? Breaking down some of these matchups. And of course, with the league getting closer to the playoffs, we have some takeaways. We have some notes coming from rivalry week and on into the playoff discussion right here on this podcast that we call Quick Hits. If you're new to the show, what's good? I'm Shannon Smith, aka Podcast Smitty, and I am a fan of sport. And on Fridays, I'm the only podcast on Boom Broadcasting that talks about the WNBA and devotes a show for the WNBA. So let's get into this discussion. We have a lot to talk about. Let's hit this theme music and let's start the show. We're at the tail end of rivalry week as it began last Saturday, August 9th, and will continue until Sunday, August 17th. Now, I'll be giving you the matchups here that have been posted on WNBA.com, the marquee matchups, that is, for rivalry week. Some of these matchups I looked at and I realized why some of these are rivalries. And then I looked at some of these and wondered why they were put into rivalry week. We'll be talking about them right now because, you know, of course, a rivalry is two individuals, two teams pitted against each other, equal skill amongst the both of them. That's what a rivalry is supposed to embody. So we're going to look at some of these matchups here for rivalry week. Some of these matchups have already happened. Some of them are going to happen, but we're going to outline these rivalries, why they are considered a rivalry and why they may not be considered a rivalry. And I'll be giving a ruling to if this is a rivalry or not. So let's go ahead and begin with the first matchup here, which occurred August 9th. We have the Chicago Sky versus the Indiana Fever. And why is this a rivalry? Of course, because of the two star players that are doing battle for the Chicago Sky and the Indiana Fever. You have Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. Their beef stemming from when they were in college competing against each other in the Final Four. The rivalry bled over into their rookie years as Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese were doing battle for Rookie of the Year, and that rivalry brought some eyeballs to the WNBA, new eyeballs, that is, to the WNBA, made it very popular, very polarizing. So this is why this matchup is considered a rivalry, and this is why it is not considered a rivalry, because in this game, Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark will not be playing, or they did not play in these games here. Of course, Angel Reese nursing an injury, and there's no times table of her return. And Caitlin Clark has had an injury-riddled second year in the WNBA. This rivalry is more narrative-based than it is basketball-based. And the Fever are in contention to get into the playoffs, and the Chicago Sky are not in contention for the playoffs. They're at the very bottom of the league, and Indiana holds the lead in the head-to-head matchup this year in the regular season. Going into this game, 3-0, but of course, with the outcome of this game, it is now 4-0, as this is their last time that they're meeting for the regular season. So I feel like this is not a rivalry because of the teams not being equal when it comes down to win-loss record and when it comes down to star power and players. So this is not a rivalry to me. Going into August 10th, which of course was on Sunday, the Atlanta Dream and the Phoenix Mercury did battle. Now, why is this a rivalry? Well, the Dream and the Mercury at that time were tied 19-11 on the win-loss record, and a tiebreaker, with the tiebreaker belonging to the Dream. The winner is in sole possession of third place in the WNBA. Of course, Brittany Griner, who signed with the Dream this summer, heading back to Phoenix for the second time this year. Of course, a very nice homecoming. The first time that she got to Phoenix to play against them. She's having a second homecoming yet again with being a member of the Atlanta Dream. Now, why is this not a rivalry? Other than what was stated before, there's really nothing drawing these teams together as rivals. But with that being said, I understand why the WNBA put this game together, because Atlanta and Phoenix, they were going to have a great game. They had a banger of a game. 74-66 was the final score in favor of the Atlanta Dream. Fifth straight win for the Dream. Alyssa Thomas and Alicia Gray continue to explain why they should be MVPs of the league. That is, of course, a great matchup between the two. Very good game. Enjoyed the game, liked the game, but to me, this is not a rivalry. The WNBA 0-for-2 in rivalry week. You know, the matchups, the first matchup, not so great, but this matchup right here was a great matchup. So very good basketball played between these two teams. But the WNBA, they rebounded a bit with this next one here. On August 12th, of course, that was Tuesday, the New York Liberty took on the Los Angeles Sparks. Now, why is this a rivalry? Because on June 21st, 1997, this was the inaugural game, the very first game of the WNBA as a whole. And these two teams, of course, there were two giants on both teams. Lisa Leslie with the New York Liberty and, sorry about that. Rebecca Lobo of the New York Liberty and Lisa Leslie of the LA Sparks. Her jersey is in the rafters. One of three players with a retired jersey for the Los Angeles Sparks. Sorry about that. But these two great players were pioneers for women's basketball in the 90s. The Liberty lead the all-time regular season matchup with the Los Angeles Sparks 34-33. And the Sparks, they swept the Liberty in the 2002 WNBA Finals to bring the all-time head-to-head matchup in favor of the LA Sparks 35-34. Also, too, leading it into today's WNBA, Kelsey Plum and Sabrina Ionescu, the two top scoring guards in the WNBA currently. These two players have a head-to-head matchup against each other, regular season and playoffs combined, 11 games to 11. Why is this not a rivalry? Given that these two teams are the remaining three teams of the original 8 WNBA teams, this is definitely a rivalry. So if you talk about rivalries in the WNBA, these two teams are mentioned in the same breath. Now, of course, the Liberty won convincingly 105-97 against the Sparks. The Liberty are having a fairly good year this year, even though they've had some injuries. They had some injury problems. Jonquel Jones got injured in the first half of the season, and of course, Breanna Stewart being injured currently. The Liberty are still playing some very good basketball, and they were able to get the win against the Sparks that are trying to resurge. They've got some star power on that squad. They've got a very talented front court player in De'Erica Hamby. They have the leadership of Kelsey Plum, who has won championships, Rakia Jackson, Azuria Stevens, and then Cameron Brink is back. So this squad is getting some synergy. They've got some star players on this squad, and I think they're getting better. This is their first year playing with each other. I think there will be more to come for the Sparks. And then going to August 13th, which was Wednesday. A very good matchup. Very good matchup. The New York Liberty versus the Vegas Aces. Why is this a rivalry? Because both of these teams have won the past 3 WNBA championships. Of course, the Aces have won 2 out of 3. And the current defending champions of the WNBA are the New York Liberty, who won their first franchise championship this past season. In the 2023 WNBA Finals, the Vegas Aces defeated the Liberty in 4 games. Of course, they played 5 games. They won 4 of 5 games, got the series to become the second team in WNBA history to win back-to-back WNBA titles. Sidebar. Now, my man Chris DeLuca, if you watch the Dugout Debrief, Chris DeLuca drops a trivia question at the end of his episode. So I'm going to do like my man Chris DeLuca and drop a trivia question for you guys, for you watching this podcast here. Can you name the first franchise to win back-to-back WNBA championships? Post it in the comments. We will reveal that answer next Friday. So, of course, going back to this rivalry here between the Vegas Aces and the New York Liberty, Kelsey Plum's infamous soundbite about the Liberty playing like individuals when the chips were down lived rent-free in the Liberty's heads. In last year's WNBA semifinals, the Liberty returned the favor and won in 4 games to advance to the WNBA championship and win their very first WNBA title in franchise history. So why is this not a rivalry? Well, Kelsey Plum already got a piece of the Liberty on Tuesday night. Came up short. She's the only piece that was missing on this Vegas Aces squad. However, this is a rivalry because of what happened in 2023. This is definitely a rivalry because they had a little bit of time to simmer. This is a rivalry here. The New York Liberty, of course, fell short to the Vegas Aces. A'ja Wilson, being who she is in that game, helped with the win. She has been playing sensationally yet again this year as the Vegas Aces rebound, getting themselves back into their winning ways as the season is drawing to a close. Then, tonight, August 15th, you've got the Seattle Storm versus the Atlanta Dream. And why is this a rivalry? Because in 2010, in the WNBA Finals, the Atlanta Dream were in their 3rd year of existence, and they made it to the finals, only to get swept by the Seattle Storm, who were led by the Hall of Famer Sue Bird and the great post player Lauren Jackson from Australia. Very, very good team there that won that championship in 2010. Now the Storm and the Dream have been 5 of 5 in the last 10 games since July 2022, with the past 4 games being decided by less than 7 points. So why is this not a rivalry? Well, of course, with the exception of Lauren Jackson and Sue Bird being long retired, this matchup is very interesting. I'll go ahead and say it is a rivalry because of the time that was elapsed between the championships and, of course, with their nip and tuck games these past 10 games dating back to 2022. I like this matchup. And, of course, this is a fairly good matchup on paper right here. This game is going on tonight. Seattle has had their troubles, of course, losing consecutive games. They have a very good squad, of course, adding Brittany Sykes. I talked about the trade on last episode. Thank you for your views as well, too. Went pretty well. And of course, the Atlanta Dream moving into second place right now in the WNBA. This is going to be very interesting. Seattle could play this game very, very well, but once again, Alicia Gray is showing why she should be WNBA MVP in this game. We'll look forward to it tonight. Then, of course, tomorrow night, August 16th, the New York Liberty and the Minnesota Lynx go at each other. And why is this a rivalry? Because, of course, it's the rematch of the WNBA Finals from last year. Went 5 games. It was a crazy, crazy series that they had for the championship. And why is this not a rivalry? They played twice already this season, this being the last meeting for the year. This rivalry is still early because last year's championship series, this year, they've been 1-2 in the standings this year with some injuries happening. MVP Napheesa Collier is not playing in this game. And, of course, Breanna Stewart not playing in this game either. So it's going to be a battle. It will still be a battle, yes. They played already in rivalry week with the New York Liberty winning. But they're playing again on Saturday. Is this a rivalry? Maybe. It's still early. We still got some time. It's still early. And last but not least, on August 17th, you have the Dallas Wings versus the Las Vegas Aces. Why is this a rivalry? The only thing I can come up with is that this is a collection of #1 picks playing each other, with Jewel Lloyd, Asia Wilson, and Jackie Young playing for the Aces, and then Paige Bueckers playing for the Dallas Wings. Why is this not a rivalry? Because Dallas is at the bottom of the league. And the Vegas Aces are contending for the playoffs yet again. This is just a game to draw eyeballs, but to be honest with you, I don't think it will. This is not a rivalry here. So those are your marquee matchups for the rivalry week. And now is a good time for us to take a commercial break, but don't you touch that dial. Go ahead and subscribe to the Boom Broadcasting YouTube channel. Go through the plethora of podcasts that we have in the field of TV, movies, sports, and sports entertainment. We had a great week so far with Out of Pocket with Michael Davis, talking about those streaming services taken away from us patrons of sports. We have 3 from Deep with Jason Colenso dropping on that Monday, talking some NBA. Of course, you had It Stinks dropping as well too. You have the Dugout Debrief with Chris DeLuca dropping as well. You're going to have Sideline Savants coming back very soon. My man Jason Colenso, who does 3 from Deep, will be doing his fantasy football podcast. It's going to be dropping in a couple of weeks. Looking forward to it. And why loves his fantasy football. He loves his NBA. But you're going to see a different side of him with this fantasy football podcast. I'm looking forward to it. And of course, on Tuesday, I drop quick hits talking some wrestling, the landmark deal with ESPN and John Cena's face turn. I talked about it on Fan of Sport Tuesday. Make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe on these podcasts here. Get the algorithm going and continue to watch as the weeks unfold, as the sports is starting to happen. It's getting better and better, everybody. Make sure that you tune in to Boom Broadcasting. Now, to bring it on home, I have some additional notes from Rivalry Week. You got to remember, we are less than a month heading into the WNBA playoffs. So there were some notes and some takeaways from Rivalry Week that we have to talk about. First of all, to me, Rivalry Week began about August 7th, a couple of days before when the Phoenix Mercury took on the Indiana Fever. That could have been the precursor. DeWanna Bonner and the Phoenix Mercury snapped the Indiana Fever's win streak. Bonner, who is a former Fever player, finished with 23 points and delivered some trash talk to her former teammates. There have been some talks about DeWanna Bonner quitting on the Indiana Fever. Bonner fired back, saying that the team wasn't the right fit, in hopes that that disrespect that they talked, the apologies are going to be louder than that disrespect that they had for her. Bonner requested a trade back in June, but she was later waived after that. That was some bickering, some talk, some interesting play going into rivalry week. Now, the rivalry that should have been featured in rivalry week should be the Golden State Valkyries versus the Los Angeles Sparks. Although the Valkyries blew out the Sparks, the WNBA could benefit from their first in-state rivalry in a long time. The Valkyries are looking to make the playoffs, and the Sparks, so are they. But let's not forget how Kelsey Plum tripped Veronica Burton during that game. Come on, WNBA. You can do this. Make an in-state rivalry for the WNBA. That'll bring some eyeballs to this league. What was so significant about the Fever Sky game that happened in the beginning on August 9th was that there were two season-ending surgeries. Ari McDonald and Sydney Colston. They were injured beforehand, and that put the Indiana Fever in a disadvantage. They only suited up 9 players for this game, and the Fever still without Caitlin Clark or any true point guard in that game. They were playing back-to-back games as well, too. I know Chicago was without Angel Reese, but the fact that the Indiana Fever won convincingly against this squad with only 9 players tells you a lot about this Chicago Sky team. Any true fan of that team will tell you that this team is taking a step back from last year. A lot of the blame is put on the front office with some of the moves that they've made. The firing of Teresa Witherspoon was something that I did not agree with, and I was very animate about that. She should have never been fired. It was her first year as the coach, and she was replaced. And the Ariel Atkins trade was something else that was talked about as well, too. That's been talked about this year. Chicago made that trade so they can get in position to win now, and it's absolutely backfired. Are the Chicago Sky the most poorly ran organization in the WNBA? Are they the worst team in the WNBA? I would definitely say so. The Connecticut Sun, now I do know the Connecticut Sun, they're the bottom team in the WNBA. But what you have to understand here is that this team, this Connecticut Sun team, is different from last year. They were pretty much stripped of their starting lineup. Their coach was dismissed as well, too. So they're playing virtually with a new team. And then you can look at the Dallas Wings. The Dallas Wings are looking to rebuild. That's what they're looking to do. And they're looking to rebuild around their young guards. Paige Bueckers, JJ Quinterly, my lady from NC State. They're looking to build with this squad here. You know, they traded away Dejanay Carrington. They're looking to build around these young guards here that they've got in Dallas. Connecticut also made a trade in the trade deadline, and Chicago didn't. Many fans point to that trade, that Ariel Atkins trade, that sent the 3rd overall pick to the Washington Mystics. And we all been seeing what the Washington Mystics have been doing. They made a great trade to the Seattle Storm and got picks back for them. They also got another pick as well, too, in another trade as well. The Mystics were going in this trade deadline here. And that 3rd overall pick could have been Sonia Citron for the Chicago Sky. That would have been a great benefit to Angel Reese and Camila Cardoso as well, too. Washington's made move after move to rebuild, and I'm looking forward to them in the coming years. But is the Chicago Sky the worst ran organization? Are they the worst team in the WNBA? What do you guys have to say? Are they worse than the Chicago Sky? Are they worse than the Connecticut Sun? Are they worse than the Dallas Wings? Are they worse? We'll see. And of course, the WNBA has had a lot of injuries this year. This is what took away from rivalry week. No MVP, no Napheesa Collier. I love calling her MVP. Hopefully she does get MVP so we can call her MVP. I'm calling her that because of the All-Star Game MVP she got. But also, too, no Stewie, no Caitlin Clark, no Angel Reese. The star power in the WNBA is limited due to injury. Lack of star power is what is going to hurt the WNBA in these games. One of the thoughts behind it is the inconsistent officiating of the WNBA. Is that the culprit, do you guys think? Is it not enough roster space like Cameron Brink was talking about? Is it not enough time in between games? Sophie Cunningham criticized these officials yet again, and she's been fined for it. There's a clip of Caitlin Clark bad-mouthing referees after she had to be held back by one of the assistant coaches because of what happened. What do you guys think when it comes down to that? And then Sunday's meeting between the New York Liberty and the Minnesota Lynx, rematch of last year's finals, we all know that. The Lynx ended up winning 83-71. It was a commanding win. The Liberty were without Breanna Stewart, who's looking to be back at the tail end of August. But then also, too, Minnesota went without Napheesa Collier, their front runner for the MVP. Does this mean the Minnesota Lynx are the best team in the WNBA? As of right now, I would say yes. As great of a two-way player as Napheesa Collier is, the Lynx are strong because of the defense of Atlanta Smith, the great scoring of Kayla McBride, Courtney Williams playing very, very good, Natisha Heidemann coming off the bench, and then, of course, Dejanay Carrington, which was a very, very good trade that the Minnesota Lynx made during that time. Her defense, her scoring punch has been great in the absence of MVP. But let's be honest. Do the Minnesota Lynx get to the championship without MVP? I don't think so. Does the fact that there's winning going on in Minnesota without Napheesa Collier, does that negate her MVP votes? I'd like to hear from you guys. I'd like to hear in those comments. We got some discussion going on, some good discussion today. Thank you so much for being a part of the discussion today. Get into those comments. Make sure that you do. For more on Boom Broadcasting, check the videos that are going to be dropped right here at the end right now. Make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe here on Boom Broadcasting. Thank you for your time. I'll be back on Tuesday with another Fan of Sport Tuesday, and back next Friday for some more WNBA talk as we get closer and closer to the playoffs. Make sure you're still keeping it locked here on Boom Broadcasting. I'm Shannon Smith, and this is Quick Hits.
Can't fall off, now they holler he'll turn, thinking I'ma sell out, talking just to feel heard. I never listen, although they say it's strictly